Welcome back to Web Woman. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Lauren Webb, and I'm really grateful that you've chosen to take some time to be with me today. Thank you. I think what I want to talk about is a post that I saw the other day. Someone that I follow put it up, and it basically says, Unity is giving and receiving, separation is taking and keeping. And when I posted this, or when I saw it posted on Instagram, it knocked me kind of between the chest bones. It hit me so deeply because there is something about giving and receiving that I have yet to be vulnerable enough to really tap into in a deep way. And but seeing it contrasted with this idea of taking and keeping kind of gave me a little bit more of a tangibility to giving and receiving itself. The context of taking and keeping is so tangible to me. And the reason I say it's tangible is because we can look at I've been consciously attempting to consciously consume over the last couple of years. And what I mean by that is as I become aware that I am a part of a system of consumption, consume, 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 I was really deeply troubled because it felt so like a vortex, like a black hole of just sucking things in and never really finding a way to pour out again. And my traditional um the things that I grew up doing to serve were toxic to me in the sense of I didn't learn how to serve from a place of giving and receiving. I learned to serve from a place of bypassing my needs, bypassing what I want, and giving at the expense of myself. And then what I would get in return was praise, adoration, loyalty, appreciation. And so I learned to sell parts of myself for those things. So is that really giving? No, that is not giving at all. That's just an energy exchange. That's a transaction. That's a transactionary approach to giving. And when I started to kind of deconstruct that thought process, that reality of giving from a place of like, how do you step out of if I lived my entire life in a space where when you gave, you were applauded, you were celebrated, you were and here's the thing. Oh, goodness. I don't ever want to detract or take away from celebrating, encouraging, honoring those who serve. Like, that's not my point. My point is that when the ego gets involved, it is very difficult to differentiate between the giving to give energy and the uh, doing in order to manipulate a response. And I'm just being 100% honest that I did not. I mean, number one, I was young, so I can't like say I was horrible, but at the same time, because I was just learning, but at the same time, whenever I would hear, giving is better than receiving, or it is better to give than to receive, even that, like that phrase right there is what kind of takes the energy of that giving and receiving are actually equal. They're actually equal skills. They're equally important skills that we need. What happens is that in the culture I grew up in, which was basically evangelical Christian culture, giving was better. Giving is better. And if you can give, then you feel more virtuous. And if you give the right way, if you give in the right moments, then you are looked at as more virtuous and it's very externalized. And the reality is that it takes courage to receive. And by receive, I'm even talking about like receiving the praise that came, receiving the adoration that came. Had I allowed myself to actually receive the praise and the adoration on a heart level, to take it for what it was when it was authentic. That's a clear point. When it was authentic, not flattery. When it was flattery, if I was truly receiving it, here's the thing, if I was truly receiving it, then I probably would have been able to feel and notice the difference between someone who was simply trying to flatter me and get on my in my good graces, in my good standing, versus someone who was genuinely touched by the offering that I had given. I hope this is making sense, because I just kind of sat down to talk this through, and I'm so if if you're new here, or you don't know me in real life, I'm an external processor. And so part of this channel, what I'm doing on here is going through and processing with you in real time. What do I really think about something? And so I, of course, I stand by what I say, but I also hope that you can feel that I'm coming from a place of a learner and not from a place of a knower. I am not a teacher who knows things. I am an experiencer who is experiencing things, and you are on this journey with me together. So that's my disclaimer. It's probably the only one that you're going to get, because I will say tons and tons of things. And someday I'll come back and go, I was completely wrong about that. But that's, you can always rely on me for coming back and telling you that I was probably wrong. Anyway, going back to the giving and receiving. When I contrasted that on the post that I saw with this idea of taking and keeping, that resonated because I began to notice the times that I would give, the times that I still do give, can either be in this energy of I literally am taken care of no matter what. Everything I need is taken care of. Everything I want is taken care of. Now, if it's not taken care of and I'm perceiving some sort of separation, some sort of lack, I can come into my mind, I can come into my body and go, where am I perceiving lack? Because there is no such thing as lack. There is no such thing as anything that's outside of myself. I have everything that I need. That's one mindset of giving. And so when I give, there's literally nothing you can give me back that's going to add to myself, because am whole on my own. I am whole. I am full. I am content. However, this opens the doorway to receiving, because whenever I know my wholeness and I know I am complete in source, in the divine image that I am created, I know I am whole, and I know I already am complete. Then I open myself humbly and receive the gift that you or someone is able to give, whether it's you giving, or the universe itself, or the flowers in my garden offering up their beauty. I can receive it without any sort of need. We all know that feeling of that pulling and that sensation of need, either within us or from someone else. And we all know how difficult it is to be around if it's coming from outside towards you, or how difficult it is to live with when you have this gaping hole that constantly needs to be filled with adoration or things or food or life itself. And that's the consumption, taking and keeping. That's the separation that I think this post was talking about. um, when we are living in that feeling of separation, it is so tempting to, not even tempting, it's normal. When you're in the energy of separation, it is normal to perceive lack, because separation implies not enough. Separation implies um, that there is a difference between you and me. And I'm not talking about our uniqueness. I'm not talking about our creativity. I'm not talking about any of that. What I'm talking about is what you have and what I have, your gifts and my gifts, your abilities and my abilities. I'm talking about those things. When we perceive a separation, then I have to, then you being outside of me means that I don't have whatever you have, and you don't have whatever I have. And therefore, we have something to compete for. We have something to be jealous of. We have something to be envious of. So, if by chance I am able to get something from you, rather than rather than enjoying that thing, I now have an energy of holding on to it. When we're separate, I have an energy of holding on to it and um, tightening my fists around it and keeping myself closed. And the other thing that can happen is now I feel indebted and I have to give back to you. That way, we're not on unequal playing fields. So now I have to give to you. And again, I'm not talking about like reciprocity or the beauty of giving and receiving. I'm talking about the shadow side, which is you give me three things, I'm going to give you three things. That way we're equal and we don't have to fight about it. Or what that can also turn into is the energy of I'm going to take everything from you and you deserve it because you're A, B, C, and D. And how much of that have we seen in the world? How much of that energy is what we literally see all around us all the time, from the way we treat our agriculture, from the way that we treat animals, from the way that we treat each other? Is there's some reason that we're separate, therefore you deserve for me to take your energy, your life force. There is something separate between us and nature. There is something separate between us and each other. There is something separate between this side of the country and this side of the country. There's something separate between, um, this party and this party. There is something separating us. Therefore, it is okay for us to take and keep energy away from the other, because that is what it takes to survive. And unity consciousness, or the awareness of being one, in one fell swoop, can get rid of that consciousness, the separation. And it I hope this is making sense. I'm sorry if it's a little complicated. I plan on talking about this more. And so stay tuned if you want to keep talking about this. If you have any questions, please help me dialogue this out, because there is something in the air about unity consciousness and about there is no separation between us. There is no separation between us. All separation is an illusion. All separation is an illusion. Now, here's another little key for that, though. Separation as an illusion is not a bad thing. It's literally why we chose to come here. We chose to put ourselves in these skin suits so that we, as the divine, could experience life. Had we not chosen to separate, even for just a dreamy moment, which is all that life really is, just a moment. Had we not chosen to separate, then we would simply be caught up in the oneness and the unity. The beauty is that we get to remember in real time. We get to remember each and every day, each and every moment, that we're not separate. When the contrast happens, when the separateness seems to throw itself at us, when we feel the drive to take and keep something, to manipulate with our giving, to give in order to receive, rather than to give because giving is life force, receiving is life force. Receive because we enjoy each other, not because I'm lacking something. No, when we choose to come into this life to be contrasted, separate beings. But that's the illusion, is that we are not separate entities, separate individuals. We are part of the oneness. We are part of the image of God. We are the image of God. We are the collective united image of God, each expressing itself in its own way, because God, source, spirit, whatever word you want to use. And I completely understand not wanting to use the word God. So I could say it as creator. Um, the oneness chose to separate itself into pieces and to forget that it separated itself when we came here. We forget that we are this oneness, and then we grab things and we hold on to them with as much strength as we can, and then we wonder, why are we so stressed? Why are we so tired? Why are we so anxious? I'm going to tell you, friend, it's because we are holding on to, and taking and keeping and storing in barns where the moth will steal and destroy, or whatever it is that Psalms or Proverbs says. I'm sorry, I have echoes of scripture from my upbringing, and they pop out from time to time. But I think that's what that scripture is talking about. You know, the real treasure is in heaven, if you want to put it that way. It doesn't mean somewhere else. It means it's within, because Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. So the real treasure is not in barns where we can take and keep. The real treasure is in this beautiful, infinite, expansive energy of the heart, where we draw up from the earth and give, and then we give back to the consciousness, and then we draw up, and then we give back over and over, and then we do the same this direction. I give to you from my full cup, and you receive. And then you give to me from your full cup, and I'm able to receive. And we never have to worry about when something is going to come back to us, because it always will. It always will find its way back to us. So these are just some musings about the energy of unity versus the energy of separation, about giving and receiving in contrast to taking and keeping. I'm sorry it was kind of all over the place, but I've enjoyed this conversation with you. I think I'll post a meditation based on this. I think I will. So join me back in a few days to see if it's here. Thank you for spending time with me. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.